Shall we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Larry, you up? Great. Thank you, everybody, for showing up today before the day storm, shall we speak, or the week storm. I'd like to call this the zoning subcommittee into session. I'm going to call a roll call. Steve Morabito.
Here.
Charles Patch.
Here.
Anthony Zambuto.
Here.
And myself. I believe we have a quorum. Also in attendance is Ward 1 Councilor Joanne McKenna. To start, if we could get Mr. Simeone up quickly regarding Chara Development LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. As my email to the members said the other day, would like to remain in committee on Chara, and also I have 14 Hutchison Street for a zoning change. I'd like to keep that in committee as well.
Excellent, thank you. With that said, I'd like to just ask if the gentleman from HYM, Mr. O'Brien, would like to present or ask, or shall I say, if we have any questions to ask or add to the development process. I'd greatly appreciate that regarding Suffolk Downs Overlay District.
I could present for a minute, if that's okay. I could keep it kind of short and then take questions if that's okay with people. We put together a quick slide presentation. I just to orient people to where we are, obviously. I did want to kind of look at a few quick things with people. So let me skip ahead. Yep. So I have a couple updated slides here. The key. So remember, this is the portion that's in Revere. This is the piece of the overlay district. The overlay district is going to propose uses, NFAR, 50% commercial uses, 25% open space, proposed heights and setbacks. A PUD allows us to move forward with a special permit for that master plan requirement. The allowed uses are office, lab, retail, hotel, residential. So this is generally the piece of that Revere master plan. I do want to just make sure that people are clear that there is a anticipated phase 1 that we sort of outlined here really quickly. So the buildings that are in the upper right-hand corner here, within the phase 1, as we talked about it last time, what we've thought about carefully is this is a true mixed-use district. So one piece in here is let's see if that screen works. There we go. This is the innovation center that we've created. So we think of this as a co-working facility. This is a really very important piece of changing the mix of what can happen here. So we see this innovation center as being approximately 50,000 square feet or so. We see it as central to the whole makeup of the district. As you can see, it's the first thing that you'll come to when you come off of the Beachmont station. So it's right up front. It's important for us, and I wanted to make sure that people understand that and that we're emphasizing it. Again, we call it kind of a co-working facility. So just to give you a little sense of what that starts to look like, this is the example that exists in the Seaport District in Boston today. This is called District Hall. This is a restaurant here that serves breakfast, lunch, and some dinner. I think the dinner is is not like a late night dinner, but this is a gathering spot for entrepreneurs and people like that. Has presentation rooms. This is a shot of something called WeWork. I don't know if people have heard of WeWork, which is a co-working phenomenon that has kind of taken over a lot of different cities, including Boston. So, this is the kind of sense of, these are people, just to give you a sense of it, these people come in, they pay a membership fee, they typically bring their laptop or whatever, and they can set up shop. They're almost like an instant company as soon as they become a member there. And then WeWork offers them all kinds of different services in terms of accounting services or services with regard to payroll. There's speakers and all kinds of different things that happen. So you get the benefit of working almost like for a big company, but you're yourself, essentially. And so it sets a really nice tone. So we've thought carefully about that. In addition to that, I'm going back to this basic idea. This we think of as a hotel here. We've placed it near Beachmont in part because we want to focus very much on making sure that that's the right kind of a hotel. We want to make sure that the first floor of that has a great restaurant, good retail, really creates the great entry point. So again, this plaza with these two uses, we want to be very public, very open, something that really is honestly something very different for Revere than you've seen in any other development, something that really makes this a very active public place. And then these other buildings are mixed-use buildings. So these two would have the retail on the first floor, particularly in this corridor here and this corridor here. And then there would be residential above those pieces as well. So generally, this is early days, but generally, that's what we're thinking about for our first phase. And as we said, I think last time, we'd come back during the special permit process to talk about this in more detail. This isn't really part of the specific, the overlay district, but I wanted to give you a little sense of how we're playing out in that.
And Mr. O'Brien, part of the reason why I asked you to come up again is because there's great concern in the community regarding the issue of housing and traffic. I do want to thank our Bob O'Brien for providing, and Frank Stringy for providing me with the traffic studies that we have within the city of Revere that date back to Mohegan and other various projects that we had within the city. And part of having you up here is to also educate the city, quite frankly, and as I educate it myself, that traffic, although an issue, has nothing to do with your project or any of the projects in the city. It seems to be, and anyone who's reading, and I'm sure I'm telling you something you already know, that unfortunately, as we perceive traffic being part of these projects from Callahan and Overlook Ridge, the beach house, and obviously with HYN's project down at Suffolk Downs, the majority of the traffic, actually 99% of it, emanate from outside the city, from people transversing Revere. And the congestion that we have from Broadway to North Shore Road is created by them. But back to your project, and if the council will give me a second, I'd like to recognize Madam President Janino. But with that said, I do want to elicit to the public that this is the first project that the city's had of this magnitude, or for that matter, any magnitude, in which there's initial investment in the future of Revere with this incubator or innovation site, as you call it, the WeWork site. And at the very least, my estimation, just by guessing at the numbers, which obviously you have and I don't, is at least a $50 million or close to $100 million investment for the first piece of property that's going to be put into that site for the city of Revere. I don't recall anything of this nature, and I think Frank had said this before, Mr. Stringy, Paul Rupp, and Mr. O'Brien, our brain trust here for economic development, as well as Tony Zimbudo, in our city's history. And so part of this, and having you up here again for the fourth time, is to get people from the public to hear what's going on, and more importantly, to understand from them what their fears are, what their anger is, what their concerns are, and then try to alleviate them with the truth. And it's a tough and a bitter pill to swallow, but when you read those traffic studies, they're plain as day.
Well, and I'd love to work with you, Counselor, to help sort of talk about this issue so that people can understand it a little bit better. I mean, I think people lead busy lives, so it's hard to pay attention to all the different things that are happening. So I get that. But the one thing, too, I would mention, Counselor, is, as I think I said last time, I don't think there have been any Class A office buildings built in Revere in at least decades. I can think of one. Ever.
Thank you,
I didn't want to say that, Paul,
So you're being gentle, we're being realistic.
Yeah. So I don't, so I would not be telling you the truth if I came in here and said, in the first phase, we can go get a tenant and we can make a Class A office building, happen all of a sudden. This Amazon thing has been, has kind of mixed things up a little bit. As I've kind of said, it's almost as if you get to the point where you can eat your dessert without having to eat all the vegetables, right? We have to do the work necessary in order to lay the groundwork for the office users to come along and want to, work with us to sign a lease and then make a building happen. That's what this is about. Now, the key thing that I'd want to make sure I point out to people is If we can make this kind of a transformation for this site and start the process of getting Revere into a position where Revere can share in the office construction that's happening in the region. Just to give you an example, I think last year's amount of real estate taxes, just local real estate taxes, was about $72 million or so in last year's fiscal year. The taxes on this, when we're all said and done, we think, this is just early days estimate, probably $30 million. So almost half again the amount of taxes when we're all said and done for the full build out of this. And most importantly, it's starting to shift the burden, the tax burden away from homeowners, because if you can shift it to office buildings and commercial, that's why Boston and Cambridge, Cambridge has a very low tax burden on homeowners, but a very significant amount of money to spend on schools and things like that, because there's such a significant amount of office space. So that's really the key transformation here, is set the table by making it a great place to live first, and then we think we can attract these companies to make this work.
The other issue, I believe, and Councilor Zambudo has a question?
You can finish what you were doing, then call on.
Sure, is for some of the councilors, and I know most people know this, but in this overlay district, currently it's a PPD, and there's certain zoning requirements. And part of this zoning process is that when we give the overlay district, we're basically saying that we're allowing a process to take place in order to permit them to come back to us within the framework of that process for a special permit. That means that at every single level of this process, they have to come back to the council, and they have to be heard based upon what they're going to put forward. So that way, and I apologize as you're going to be the recipient of this comment, that we do not fall into the problems that we've had into the past, where we have a particular project that gets amended, or we have a particular project that gets amended without the input from the council. And more importantly, that we have someone who makes a blanket statement and we take them at their word, and then we come back 2 years down the line and, like over at Overlook Ridge, we don't have a hotel. So with that said, this is a project that the community is going to have, through us, a process to mitigate with you, talk with you, and develop with you a piece of parcel that's going to ameliorate the tax burden that many of the people were screaming about last week. It's going to change the economic dynamics of this city greatly. More importantly, it's going to provide jobs. Tony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited about what I've just heard here, but I think, we talk quickly up here, and the people at home might not have heard what was just doled out here. This innovation building is a minimum of $50 million investment by the developer with no guarantee of return. $50 million up front. I dare say nobody else would be putting that up. So the other thing I'm excited about is what's proposed for phase one. If that's not an opportunity for success, I don't know what is. You got that building and a hotel and the mixed-use residential buildings. I dare say we'll probably never see a project like this in our lifetime. And like you said, it comes with guarantees because we have the final say in the special permit process. That's what we were trying to talk about the other night, but there were a little too much emotion involved. And people hear apartments and they go berserk, and traffic and they go berserk. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm told that the traffic mitigation is the same traffic mitigation that was proposed by Mohegan Sun for the casino. I don't know how much more you can ask for a development, but I'm excited about this project. I've already said many times what I think of this group, that we're lucky to have them, and I'm not a cheerleader usually, but I take people on their record, and this is an impeccable record and an impeccable company that we have before us with. I can't say enough about how excited I am for the Beachmont area to start with. The project, this is so transformative, I can't even I'm lost for words. So I'm excited about this, and I do want the citizens at home to understand, because I get people come up to me all the time, we don't need any more apartments, we don't need any more apartments. And if you just hear that there are apartments coming to Suffolk Downs, and you don't understand the dynamics behind it, then you're nervous, and of course, they talk about traffic, and you've seen the same studies I've seen, and most of the traffic is from out of the city that comes through the city. So it's a minimal impact on traffic. Not that any impact on traffic is a big deal, but this is not going to generate a lot of traffic. What it's going to generate is economic development, and I'm truly excited about this. Thank you.
Councilor Patch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to explain to the people out there, and to you, Mr. O'Brien, that I know the last zoning meeting that I voted no, but that wasn't a vote against the overlay. That was a vote that the reason for that vote was that the chairman wanted to have another meeting, and I felt that that was the right thing to do. And then that's what we agreed on, and then everybody left, who was opposed and who was for it. So I want to stay with the transparency here. And I said during the meeting I was for the overlay, but I didn't think it was the right thing to do to vote for it after everybody left. And again, I'm going to state that all the money you spent, you and your investors on Suffolk Downs, that at least I can do is give you a right to show us what you want to do. And that's all we're doing here with the overlay, is just to see what's aboard here. We still have a right as a council to vote on each phase and each thing that changes in the plan. So we're just giving you a right to put forth your proposal here. So again, I'll be voting for the overlay, and I'm sorry for the mix-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Morbido?
Thank you. I don't want to sound redundant, but I am going to be. I think my colleagues covered everything except for one thing. Like Councilor Rotundo said, we're voting just on the zoning, changing it to an overlay, and based on that, every phase is still going to be transparent to us, and we're still going to make a decision based on what goes into those phases. One thing I mentioned to you before, and I've been very persistent on it, and I understand it, I get it, the whole mixed retail, I know how it works, it's logical, but I'd still like to see one of the buildings or some form of condo units where residents can take more vested value into the neighborhood.
Yeah, and as we said, Councilor, we'd love to make as many, we'd love to create as many condos as we can. And part of it has to do with the capital markets and the current status of the capital markets. But we can commit to you that we'll try and make as many condos as we can on the site, particularly in the first phase.
That's fair.
That could mean a mix of some condos and some apartments in some buildings. We're doing that now. For example, in downtown Boston, the top floors, we're going to sell those as condos, and that helps us actually write down the expense, the overall expense of the building. So it's a mix of condos and apartments in that building that we're doing right now. So we've experienced doing that. Thank you.
Councilor McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that 2 years ago, when I became a councilor, and they were putting up the Shaw's site, people were saying, why can't we have an assembly row? Why can't we have an assembly row? We need restaurants, we need commercial space, we need office space. Well, we're getting an assembly row, but as you say, Mr. O'Brien, it's going to be 100 times better than Assembly Row.
I didn't say
So,
We think it's going to be better. Hopefully it's 100.
we think it's going to be better, all right, so, but, I mean, we are getting that, and people were asking for that, and now we're getting that. So, and with commercial comes residential, and if it's a mixed use with mixed residential use, hotels, condominiums, townhouses, office space, 55 and over. I mean, we should be really proud of this project. We don't have another chance. We have to ride the wave to change Revere, and the wave is here. And if we don't ride the wave, then we're just going to be the same as we are now, and we want to change it. So I congratulate you. I think you're a great guy. I think you're a great developer. Your crew's great, and I love working with you, and I support this 100%.
Thank you, Counselor.
I think you can, Stephen.
Just want to piggyback off what Councilor McKenna said. And like she said, you know, people were saying, we need this, we need amenities, we need that. But we also need the demographic that's going to meet that market and meet that niche. And within the vicinity, you have to keep in mind, not only do we have senior housing down the street, we're going to have 55-plus buildings. We're having a veterans facility that's down the street. We have the beach down the right within like a mile radius. We have all these different demographics that this amenity would entertain. So
We agree.
that's one thing I wanted to add as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Marabito. Madam President, Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I had initially voted to take it out of committee, but I'm glad that the other councilors had the foresight to keep it in, because I think that this was a great opportunity. I was enthusiastic to get this passed and start working, because I think this property has so much potential, and it's really going to be a catalyst for our city. So I think it's important to hit the ground running. But in retrospect, I'm glad we had this meeting, and I'm glad that the chairman had it today. This is a perfect opportunity between council meetings and giving everyone the ability to be here. I want to thank HYM for all the hard work you've done, and really for your effort to work with us. I can honestly say, in the years I've been on the council, I've never had a developer that has been so eager to work with us and to have so many meetings and to be so involved with the ward councilors. It really speaks a lot. It speaks volumes of you and your organization, so thank you. And I'm looking forward to a long-standing relationship with you and our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
Well, with that said, I guess for me, the last piece is not only the aspects of economics, but the employment part of it, in that we have well over 60,000 people in our city, approximately 5 to 7% at any one time that are unemployed. And I'm just hoping that we'll be able to facilitate in some manner or fashion to have Revere workers build Revere buildings.
Yeah, we'd love that. Yeah,
That's very important to me.
Yeah, we'd love that. And, you know, I'd be happy to engage with you. In Boston, there's a whole process of how jobs must be advertised and worked with, you know, for Boston residents. I'd be happy to think that through with you here in
And
Revere. Yeah.
my understanding is generally almost every building that you've built within Boston, Cambridge has been pretty much union. So without getting into that dynamic, I mean, if that does happen to be the case, which I would hope, they've been great partners with the city of Revere. I know they'll be great partners with you, Rich Petty, Louis Trelawney. I can go down the list of people. I'm sure you know them all. And generally what has happened in the past, they've been able to ensure that Revere people work on Revere jobs. They did it with the school building program here. They've done it with other products here as well. I have great faith in them. That said, you know, this is the mixed-use product that the mayor wants down on the beach and is advocating for throughout the city. Me and him don't necessarily agree on a lot of things, but this we totally agree on. And I'd like to move this out of committee, and I want to thank you personally for your patience, because it's important that the public, you know, have another digestion of what this is about beyond the commentary for the past couple of weeks, and have you separately. And so that way, when they come and look at the zoning committee meeting of the 12th, they'll have an understanding of what's going to take place. But I really want to stress to them this incubator building, if you will. I prefer that term. is something that my cousin has spoken about out in the East Bay, out in San Francisco and other places, and he's a developer and a realtor out there. And I'll tell you, if it does what I think it can do for Revere, what it's done out there, it's going to build more companies in our city than we've ever seen in its history, whether it be tech or any other type of startup. It's a great idea, and it's a great risk, but we're going to support you as best we can, and I thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you move this out of committee, there are just two small changes that have to be addressed. They're housekeeping and clarification measures. And one is under Section 1726.050, paragraph A, under maximum height. Previously, the maximum height referred to all residential and mixed-use residential structures. That's going to be changed to refer to all buildings, hotels, offices. Just the language wasn't strong enough, so now it's strong, it addresses all buildings. And under paragraph E, in that same section, the second sentence is being eliminated. That referred to a final, former draft that we were working on. Somehow it stayed in there, and that has to come out, that second sentence. And that's it. That'll clear it.
And one more time with the second sentence, my fatigue is...
It says, the second sentence is, the foregoing shall not apply to the development of the initial permitted development.
Okay, in Section E, very well.
Yeah, in section E, okay. And the height is
100 and 120.
it's going to refer to all buildings. The prior, what you had before you just referred to residential and mixed-use buildings. Okay. That's it's just for clarification purposes.
Before we vote on anything, I do want to ask of both Frank and Mr. O'Brien, the traffic studies that you gave me, and by the way, I want to both thank you for being so generous and timely with them. If there is some way, and I had brought this up with the mayor, about presenting that information online in some way of getting it online so that people see what's actually going on in the city, so that there is no complaint that there is no transparency, so there is no complaint that people were left out of the loop, that there is no complaint that what we've done here today and what we're going to do in the future is as transparent and forward to the public as possible. So if we can accomplish that, I'd appreciate it.
The only thing I would say to that, Mr. Chairman, is that some of the Mohegan Sun data are a little dated, and updated materials are being developed now. It probably makes sense, for the DEIR, probably makes sense to publish those so there's no confusion.
You know, and I did want to kind of do a little bit of housekeeping with that issue regarding Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
And pardon me for correcting you, Councilor Zambudo. A lot of the aspects, a lot of the aspects of the Mohegan Sun project will be incorporated in fixing some of the issues. I don't believe that HYM is beholden to the Mohegan Sun mitigation for traffic at all. That's a,
Yeah,
I just want the public to know that. However, what I would like the public to do is to contact their state official, you know, Boncory, Vincent, and the rest of our delegation, and get them on the ball to put in a mitigation package for the region to fix this traffic problem that we've had since the ideals of having a casino here. Nothing's been done since then. It's been forgotten and off the back burner, but yet our traffic issue remains. Our issue is the state needs to fix the traffic burden here in the city of Revere, and you know, that's it, point blank.
Yeah, I agree. I do think we're fortunate, though, that the traffic consultant for the Mohegan Sun is the same as the traffic consultant for this project. So they're very, very familiar with all of the data that was compiled for that purpose and can update it accordingly.
Thank you.
I don't mind that correction, Jim.
Can I just add one thing, Counselor? I apologize. There was some discussion. I put up a slide that showed a company called WeWork, and I meant it to be simply a precedent image of the kinds of co-working space that we think could happen inside the Innovation District. We haven't made a specific WeWork is actually a company, and there's other companies that do that sort of work, co-working business and things like that. They just happen to be.
You were just using it as an example.
We don't have any transaction with them. We've not spoken with them specifically about this. They're just an example. Yes.
What about Amazon?
But they would, Amazon would be the kind of thing, they actually, interestingly, Amazon, I don't think would want all the space just for themselves. They want to create a kind of an atmosphere. So some of it, they would probably do some co-working with other types of entrepreneurs and company, people who aren't necessarily Amazon employees. So same kind of idea.
Excellent, thank you. Madam Clerk, I would like to vote the CZ 1802 Suffolk Downs Overlay District with the dimensional changes in 17.26.05 exclusively of A regarding the following sentence: maximum height for building shall be 50 within 75 feet and 100 feet within 120 feet of the portion of the SDOD boundary line that abuts the Washburn Ave as shown on the SDOD height zone map, and 70 feet within 50 feet of the portion of the SDOD boundary line that abuts Winthrop Ave as shown on the SDOD height zone map, as well as Section E, minimum commercial development, in which changes are noted, in which the foregoing shall not apply to development of the initial permanent development as defined below pursuant to Section 17.26.05 will be stricken. And I believe that's pretty much all the changes that I can see here. And if we could have that placed to the record for advertisement, I'd greatly appreciate that. Is there anything that I need to amend that I haven't spoken of? Anybody?
Just, you probably should mention it. Councilor Rotundo is just in section 17.26.070B. It looks like it was just a spelling error, but you probably should just read that into the record. PWG, and inserting in place
Thank
thereof,
you.
PAG.
Very well.
And just a numbering issue, the project advisory group section shall be numbered as 17.26.060.
So if we can, Frank, you know I'm getting old.
There's only one more. It's an addition. We're adding another exhibit, and this is a exhibit to the height zone map. It's a clearer map showing the boundaries of the site more clearly with height zones. So that'll be added as an Exhibit B.
So that height zone map, Exhibit B, be placed into it. Madam Clerk, when we read this into the vote, if you could remind me so I effectively engage, that would be perfect, thank you. When you're ready, Madam Clerk.
Shall the zoning subcommittee approve the SDOD as amended? Do you want to read the amendments as well? Okay. The First Amendment, Section 17.26.050, subsection A, dimensional regulations, is amended by deleting residential and mixed-use residential structures and inserting in place thereof buildings. Number 2, Section 17.26.050, subsection E, dimensional regulations, is amended by deleting the sentence in its entirety. The foregoing shall not apply to the development of the initial permitted development as defined below pursuant to Section 17.26.050. Amendment number 3, the project advisory group shall be numbered as Section 17.26.060. Amendment number 4, Section 17.26.070, subsection B, special permit master plan, PUD, is amended by deleting the word or initials PWG and inserting in place thereof PAG. And number 5, the height zone, Exhibit B is added to the SDOD, which is entitled the height zone exhibit.
Roll call.
On the SDOD as amended, Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes,
Yes. Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes, the SDOD will be forwarded to the full city council as amended.
Thank you all for attending. If there's any comments or questions, please present them now before we adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind just a moment, point of personal privilege. I just want to touch base with everyone about the storm tomorrow. So there is a parking ban in effect as of 8 p.m. this evening. All vehicles parked on emergency arteries will be towed. If you visit reverepolice.org/snow-emergency-parking /, it will give you a list of all affected streets. This is also on revere.com. It's a big yellow banner at the front of the city webpage. Revere.org. Thank you. Wouldn't want to make that mistake. All Revere schools and evening programs are canceled tomorrow, as well as City Hall and all city buildings will be closed. There will also be no trash collections on Tuesday. All trash collections will be delayed 1 day for the remainder of the week. We ask that everyone stay safe and please stay off the roads unless it's an emergency. We want to keep the arteries clear so plow drivers and emergency vehicles can get through. We also ask that you check on your elderly neighbors or anyone that may be in need and make sure everyone's safe in your community. And we hope everyone stays safe through the storm, and feel free to call any of your counselors and ward counselors if you have any emergencies, and also utilize the 311 system if necessary. I think we covered it. Any other counselors? Thank you, everyone. Have a safe night, and thank you, Councilor Rotundo, for the leeway.
Thank you, and this subcommittee meeting shall be adjourned.